what is a car to me? It's not just a means of getting from A to B. If you want to do that, buy a Toyota Camry. You know, that's just an appliance. But a car to me it's a passion of enjoying your ride in life and how you get there, the mood that you're in. I'm Rich Plavetich, and I drive my grandfather's 1962 Lincoln Continental. I lived right across the street from my grandparents, and I just loved my grandfather. He was such an important influence in my life, and he had this 62 Lincoln that he bought when I was 2 years old. And he would take me into the garage and teach me the finer things in life about changing oil and replacing a tire or the basics of car maintenance, and I really started to understand about cars and got interested in these things. It was just like a rocket ship. You know, I'd never seen a car that was so advanced for that era, and just became enthralled with it. I grew up in Pittsburgh, spent a number of years in Detroit when I first started working in the car business. When I was 19 years old, I worked at GM Design, which was amazing to land in a position like that when I was such a young kid. Came out to California back in 1987 on vacation, went back to Detroit and packed. So I've been out here for the last 32 years designing cars. Going back, maybe 15 years ago, I did this concept for Mitsubishi called the Eclipse Concept E, where I led the design and engineering efforts on that thing. Mercedes-Benz was there for many years. That and many, many other cars. A lot of them I can't talk about because I'm still actively employed by Nissan, and we have a lot of cool future stuff coming out that just can't go there right now. Ben, you want to come up here, buddy? My grandpa was a lawyer, so he took notes on things. So I have the original file folder of everything, so the complete history on this car. When he bought the Lincoln, he didn't actually buy this Lincoln. He went out to a new car dealer, bought a brand new Lincoln Continental, drove it home, and something just wasn't right about it. It just didn't feel like a new car, so he started looking at it closer, and you could see there was wear and tear on the tires, there were bugs in the radiator. One that's has at least 10,000 miles on it, and of course the dealer denied it and all that, but he had pretty clear evidence that that wasn't the case. By chance, from his fraternity days in college, he knew the general sales manager for Lincoln Mercury in Dearborn, and he got in touch with him and told him the story. And of course they were aghast at what happened, and they enabled him to return his new Lincoln back to the dealer, but they provided him with what was an executive demo car. Only had 2,000 miles on it, completely documented, checked out as being a perfect car, and this is the car that I have today. He loved this car. He bought it in 1962, had it up until he passed away in 1973. Fortunately, it was kept in my grandmother's garage, and it was kind of intended for me to have it someday. So when I started driving a few years later, when I was 16 years old, this is always a special car for me, and I've kept it with me now for what's that, 47 years, 46 years. Even though my grandfather passed away in 1973, I still see this as his car. You know, not just with the Shriner little figure up in front of the automatic eye, but I even have his pipe here. You know, the pipe has been sitting in the sun visor now for 46 years, but this is his car, it's his pipe. It just belongs there. It's a part of the car, it's a part of who he was, and I just have to preserve my memories and the heritage of the car and the heritage of him, and it just gives me a smile on my face every time I look up there, and it's like he's riding in the car with me. He was a lawyer by trade, but he loved to work with his hands. He loved having interesting cars, interesting boats. I remember as a kid he had this old wood runabout boat with a 40-horse Evinrude on that he'd tow behind the Lincoln here, where he'd take it on vacation. And he just loved to be able to work with these things and tinker with them in his garage. And through that tinkering, he pulled me in and got me engaged in the same kind of thing in my life and my career. If we go back to the end of the 1950s, you know, it was American excess at its height. So go to 1961, Ford was looking for something that was a bit more continental, if you will, something that was more worldly, something that had cleaner design. Compared to its predecessor, the car is 14 inches shorter actually, even though we think of this thing as a tank today, it's actually downsized from what it was. Part of the distinctiveness also, of course, is what's referred to as suicide doors. With this being a rather long wheelbase car, the rear doors have a configuration where they could have a vertical cut line forward of the rear wheel arches, which meant they could have a full-length hinge at that point, so you could do this so-called suicide door, which was intended to be a more elegant solution for entry into the back seat, for taking your friends out to the country club, or a more graceful way for women to enter the back seat. But this is also known as the Kennedy Lincoln. So, you know, JFK, of course, was assassinated in 1963 in Dallas. He was in the back seat of a '62 stretch Lincoln convertible. And so even to this day, driving this around, oh, you have a Kennedy Lincoln. This car has a 430 cubic inch V8 engine in it. They were all bench tested and then road tested for 12 miles before delivery. 24,000 mile, 24-month warranty, which was unheard of at the time. Most cars back then were 12 months, 12,000 miles. So it was sold on being a very high quality automobile. From a driving experience standpoint, let's just say this is a luxurious cruiser. Drum brakes on all four corners. They work, but it's a 5,300 pound car. It was about the open interstate and long straight lines and being comfortable and luxurious and enjoying your ride seeing the country. My wife and I don't have children, so what becomes of this Lincoln is a bit of a mystery to me in the sense that we don't have any direct heirs to pass this to. But I just hope that it finds a home where people will love it and appreciate it as much as I have, not just for what the car is, but for the people that it represents and the people that they grew up with and maybe learned something from and inspired them to go on and do great things in their own lives. I thought, what a great opportunity to tell a story about my grandfather and about my upbringing, and I'm going to get too emotional with that one, I think. It's a tough one. But it would mean so much for my mother to see this car, knowing that others maybe can share something from their experiences in their life with their kids and their grandkids and be inspired by their relatives from there.